Following Kano's directions, Stanley drove toward the crime syndicate's hangout. There was a good chance that this was where Maria was being held. Traffic was practically non-existent and they made good time. They cruised down Miyamazuzaka, then passed the train station toward Dogonzaka. All the while, the two men stared out the windshield, neither inclined to make conversation. They arrived at the Shinsencho intersection.
Take it right here,
Kano said.
You nervous?
Stanley asked as he made the turn. His own tone was calm and level. Kano gave no reply. If this syndicate really was holding Maria hostage up ahead, he and Stanley might wind up putting her in danger by showing up there. If it came down to it, Kano wondered, could he count on the man next to him taking the hostage's safety into account? He doubted it, but there was nothing he could do about that now. They arrived at the syndicate's hangout sooner than Kano had anticipated. It was a multi-tenant building in Tomigaya, southwest of Yoyogi Park. The ratty building looked like it might come crashing down at any time. The Black Lodge sign out front looked deliberately ominous. Kano knew the place as a bar frequented by expats from various countries, as well as a hotbed of criminal activity.
I'll take point.
Stanley said.
You back me up.
He pulled a handgun from his suit pocket. It was a compact Glock, a model frequently used by the FBI or the CIA. Kano drew his own gun, and the two cautiously made their way inside. They immediately heard some sort of ruckus from beyond a wooden door at the far end of the hall.
Please don't let this be what I think it is.
Kano thought to himself. Sweat beaded on his hands as he gripped his gun tighter. He heard the sound of glass shattering. Then came the sound of something heavy falling to the floor.
Maria!
Ignoring Stanley's previous order, Kano rushed ahead, kicked down the door, and stepped inside. He walked right into a massacre. There were nearly a dozen bodies sprawled out all across the floor. He thought he recognized them all, the men who'd participated in the repeated attaché case handoff. Each appeared to have been stabbed to death. Had these guys all turned on each other? No, that couldn't have been the case. None of the victims was holding a knife, which meant that whoever had killed them must still be hiding nearby. No sooner had Kano come to this conclusion than he heard a muffled cry behind him.
Stanley!
The American was sprawled on the floor, face down. Kano rushed over and knelt beside him. Stanley was dead, stabbed through the back. Without an instant's hesitation, Kano stood up again, gun at the ready. Scanned his surroundings, but there was no sign of the killer. But that was impossible. Stanley had been killed mere moments ago. Someone had to be here somewhere. Out of nowhere, he felt someone press the tip of a knife into his neck from behind, right at the base of his skull. How? He hadn't noticed anyone coming up on him. There wasn't even anyone else around. Nobody but the corpses scattered across the floor. Wait. The corpses. Kano hadn't checked them. Hadn't checked to make sure they were all really dead. With his last thought, he realized that had been his fatal mistake. It was true that his actions didn't make a lot of sense.
Is this me or is it him?
I think it's you.
Yeah, he seemed more interested in taking the man with the cane than going after you.
Maybe it was a case of mistaken identity?
You think so?
Hitomi said. She sounded doubtful, and Achi couldn't blame her. It did seem pretty unlikely. No. For whatever reason, the foreigner had deliberately gone after the man with the cane. And it certainly hadn't been to rescue Achi and Hitomi. The enemy of one's enemy was not necessarily one's friend. The man with the cane and those foreigners. Would Achi and Hitomi really be able to escape them all? And if they did, would they ever find Hitomi's sister? They heard a child cry out behind them. Turning to look, they saw the kidnapper rushing toward them. He had knocked over a little girl who was in his way.
No, that's no way.
Achi sighed. Yet again, he and Hitomi sprinted away.
Do you think he took out the guy with the cane?
Hitomi's words came between panting huffs.
Maybe.
Achi glanced back at their pursuer. there was someone with him. Now they were being chased down by 2 foreigners.
I like this better when we're just running from the guy with the cane.
In a one-on-one fight, Achi was confident he could keep Hitomi safe. 1-on-2, though, different story. One guy might get a hold of her while he was facing off against the other. He had to make sure they lost these creeps, no matter what.
I'm gonna be heartbroken. I'm going to be heartbroken.
He kept his expression blank as an empty slate.
Hey now. No need for that, sir. Just settle down. Who doesn't like a silly little magic show now and then?
You've got 2 minutes.
Hey, a minute can't have passed already.
1 minute.
Whoa. Just what kind of watch you got there?
Tell me why the demo isn't starting.
Well, you know, no real reason, really.
The man was getting seriously flustered.
I just, you know, I wanted folks to get to see a little magic show first.
Nope, try again. 30 seconds left.
Okay. All right. What happened is, the required merchandise,
What happened to the merchandise?
Minorikawa demanded. He gave the guy a dagger stare.
well, you know, it's just,
Time's up.
What?
The man's face went pale.
We'll just go through these.
As luck would have it, they soon found a crowd in their path, backs turned toward them. Excited voices rose up from the throng.
Whoa, what's the deal? Emilio.
Is something going on?
Panda. Nolan.
It's a street fight!
Achi clutched Hitomi's hands good and tight.
Whatever you do, don't let go.
Without a moment's hesitation, he plowed his way through the crowd. Emerging on the far side of the gathering, Achi saw the main road ahead. Cars were zipping past in a steady stream.
What do we do?
There were too many cars for them to rush across the street without getting hit. But they couldn't exactly just sit and wait for the light to change. And they certainly couldn't go back the way they came. Their pursuers were getting closer and closer.
Hitomi!
Achi shouted.
We're turning back. We're turning back.
We're what?
Follow me.
Achi whirled nimbly around and sprinted back the way they came. Their two pursuers skidded to a halt, startled to see Achi rushing towards them. The men spread out to bar the way. But Achi wasn't trying to slip past them. He headed straight for the guy on the right with a lunging tackle. He caught his target full on, dropping him unceremoniously to the sidewalk. Hitomi let out a cry of alarm. In the moment that Achi had spent knocking down one opponent, the other man had snatched her up. So Hitomi was definitely the one they were after too. Achi caught up with the kidnapper, managed to yank Hitomi free from his arms, and immediately caught him in a throw. Man spun like a top as he whirled through the air.
We gotta run.
Achi shouted, hoping that he'd bought them enough time.
Right, okay.
Once again, they doubled back around and ran. Stealing a quick look behind them, Achi saw the two assailants quickly getting back to their feet. This was bad. He wasn't going to be able to fight them off and keep Hitomi safe at the same time. Besides, at least one of the men had a gun. With Hitomi still in tow, he sprinted in the direction of the main road. Happily, the light had turned red and the traffic had come to a stop. If they'd tried to cross before their brief altercation, they probably would have been inundated by the sea of cars. Worse yet, they might have caused an accident. The two made their way across the street, then hid in a narrow alley between two buildings.
Come on, let's go.
Achi led the way down several twisting side streets before slowing his pace. By now, Hitomi was slumped and panting heavily. He wanted to give her some time to rest, but if they just hung around, their pursuers might still find them. He looked around and spotted a multi-tenant building. The nearest door was open. Bundles of flyers were set out near the entrance. Achi peeked inside and saw piles of plywood and painted lumber. It looked like this was a storeroom for a theater's stage props and scenery.
We can hide out. We can hide out in here.
He said.
But
Hitomi hesitated, but Achi gave her hand a little tug.
It'll be fine. There's no one. There's nobody around.
They stepped inside the storeroom and Achi quickly shut the door behind them.
We should probably rest for a bit.
He said. There was a wooden platform set up beside a large piece of plywood. Achi picked up a magazine that had fallen on the floor and spread it out atop the platform's dusty surface.
Here. Now you can sit without getting your clothes dirty.
thank you.
Hitomi quietly took a seat.
We should probably turn off our cell phones.
Achi said.
It could be really bad if they rang at the wrong moment.
The two powered off their phones. Achi took a cursory look around. It didn't look like there was any way in or out besides the door they'd come in through. There was a single window set in the wall, but it wouldn't open far enough to let them through.
Ah!
Hitomi let out a quiet gasp. Someone was outside the storeroom. Achi put a finger to his lips and Hitomi gave a fearful nod. The window's frosted glass blocked any real view in or out. So long as they stayed quiet, they ought to be safe. Whoever was outside pressed their face to the frosted glass, trying to get a glimpse inside. The blurry visage of the foreigner who'd attacked them was dimly visible. Like the man with the cane before him, this guy was quick to catch up. The man pounded on the glass. Achi swallowed the lump in his throat. If this guy got in, they had nowhere to run. Achi turned to Hitomi.
We'll be fine. Just sit tight.
Hitomi clutched onto Achi's arm, hard.
Panda.
Can I help you with something?
Said a casual voice from outside. They saw their pursuer react at once, pulling back from the window.
That's just a storeroom, you know.
The voice added. Achi heard footsteps scampering away. The kidnapper had run off. Achi exchanged glances with Hitomi and let out a tiny sigh. There were more voices coming from outside now.
What's up with that guy?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't-
I think that was someone else.
It's fine. Nolan.
Whatever. Let's just hurry up and get stuff tidied up.
Emilio.
Man, my throat's raw.
It sounded like a conversation between two men. The storeroom door opened, and the men clomped their way inside.
So what are we getting?
Let's grab all these folding chairs over there.
Yeah.
The producer said we're gonna need a lot more seats all of a sudden.
Mr. Atari said that? You already going all out for the troops' last hurrah, huh?
Beats me, man.
In no real hurry, the men went about carting the folding chairs away. They didn't notice Achi and Hitomi sitting silently in the shadows.
Ain't you doing?
I think it's Nolan.
I'm gonna change the subject, but how come we're using the dry ice machine and not a smoke machine? Maybe that's why my throat's bothering me.
Yeah, it's pretty weird. Nobody's even operating it and it's still drawing a ton of power.
Think it's defective?
Achi and Hitomi waited for the two men to finish up. If they were spotted, it would probably cause a scene. And worse still, it might alert the men who were hunting them. Once they'd carried off the rest of the folding chairs, the men closed the storeroom door. The foreigner could still be somewhere nearby though, so Achi decided they should hide out in the room a little longer.
Ugh, this blows. I want to get back out there and look for that blue van ASAP, but
Wait, I think that's.
oh.
Yeah.
This blows. I want to get back out there and look for the blues van ASAP, but
Achi trailed off as something occurred to him.
wait a second. Now that's weird.
Hitomi looked at him inquiringly.
The kidnappers already have their ransom money, yeah?
That's
Achi
right.
said.
And then they told you that your sister was inside some blue minivan? Isn't that kind of weird?
What do you mean?
Did you figure that your sister was in the minivan by herself?
Well, yes. If one of the kidnappers were with her, they wouldn't need to send me to go get her.
Right.
Achi said. And yet, the fact was that as soon as the kidnappers had their money, they could have let Hitomi's sister out of the vehicle and just run off. There was no point in sending Hitomi to fetch her personally. A look of revelation dawned on Hitomi's face.
Oh! That minivan had already left Donginzonga.
She said.
And it came back while we were there waiting for it.
Achi finished. He thought back to his earlier run-in with the blue vehicle.
So then inside that minivan,
There had been a bunch of foreigners inside. Which meant
the kidnappers didn't have any intention of giving her sister back.
the kidnappers didn't have any intention of giving her sister back. The more Achi thought about it, the less sense it made for them to send Hitomi to get her. There had to be some other reason they wanted Hitomi to go to that minivan. But what?
Do you think they were trying to kidnap me too?
That's it.
She clapped his hands together.
Then they let your sister go and demand ransom for you. And then they make her deliver the ransom money for your release. They'd be able to get like infinite ransom money by constantly abducting one twin after the other.
That seems a little far-fetched.
Oh, yeah. I guess you're right.
Now that she'd said so, Achi realized it was kind of a ridiculous idea.
Still, what if the kidnappers really were trying to kidnap me?
Hitomi said.
As in, like, they accidentally abducted the wrong twin? I mean, I guess that would have been easy to botch up.
That would imply that they wanted me specifically, and not my sister.
Hitomi paused briefly in thought.
Maybe you're harder than your sister or something.
Achi suggested, with enthusiasm. Hitomi shook her head.
That can't be it. If anything, it's the other way around. Compared to my sister, I'm just...
Whoa, hey, stop right there.
Achi had to interrupt her.
You're not just anything.
Please don't. I am. I'm just...
Tears had welled up in Hitomi's eyes.
Why? Why'd this have to happen to her? Why not me?
Whoa, hey, come on, don't cry.
I'm sorry.
Cheer up. It's like that song says. Don't just stand there. Wipe those tears away. That one. You know it?
Is that Aya Kamiki?
Yeah, that's the one. Put your hand in mine. Every single bee's a light. You know? Every single bee's a light.
Hitomi let out a giggle.
Everything will be alright.
You've got the lyrics wrong. It's everything will be alright.
Ah, right. Yeah. I guess that makes more sense, I guess.
Achi's mouth curled into a sheepish smile.
Alright. I think we've laid low long enough.
Achi said at last.
Think we should be on our way?
He was about to get to his feet when he heard voices outside the storeroom again.
Nolan, I think.
Yikes, that was pretty careless of us.
Oh,
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, we're definitely gonna watch it.
The theater guys from earlier had returned, and they sounded a bit panicked.
Wait, so this is back to me, or
Yeah, because I've been the one that's coughing.
Yeah.
heard folks been messing with the storeroom a bunch recently.
Yeah. Did you hear? The ones who's been behind it? Some juvenile delinquents.
Like a gang? Wow, that takes me way back. Alright, let's hurry on back.
Achi rushed over to the door. He tried turning the knob, but the door wouldn't budge.
Oh, come on. Are you freaking kidding me?
He paced frantically around the room, pulling at his hair.
We're locked in.
And that door was the only way in or out. Achi and Hitomi were well and truly trapped inside the storeroom.
This is all my fault.
Achi said.
It was my idea to hide out here in the first place.
He bowed to Hitomi repeatedly.
We're never going to be able to find that blue minivan now.
Guess we'll have to get someone on the outside to help us.
Hitomi replied. She scowled thoughtfully. They powered their phones back on in order to call for help.
Oh, that's me.
Hitomi chirped. She took a look at the LCD display.
It's an email from Mr. Tanaka.
Ah, okay.
Hitomi began typing out a response with practiced ease. More wild delusions rose in Achi's mind. Stealing a quick glance at Hitomi, he noticed her gazing happily at her phone's screen. His delusions ran even more wild. While he was still fretting furiously, Hitomi finished typing her response.
So, what do you end up saying?
Achi asked.
I explained the situation.
That we're trapped in a storeroom, you got some guys chasing after you, and you're looking for some van?
Yes. I also asked him to please keep this a secret from my family and the police.
Whoever this Tanaka guy was, Hitomi sure seemed to put a lot of trust in him. A short while later, Hitomi's phone chimed with a reply. She checked the screen in a flash, all eagerness. Achi.
Couldn't help but ask. So, what's that Tanaka guy? What's that Tanaka guy have to say?
A hint of jealousy slipped into his voice.
He says he's going to try and find the minivan for us.
Huh? You just come and let us out. I can go look for it myself.
He says he wants us to hide out here a little longer.
What the hell? Seriously?
He says that if someone's after me, it's safer to stay where we are.
Yeah, I'm running. I'm out of the running.
Achi thought to himself. This Tanaka was clearly pretty concerned for her. And there was really only one reason a middle-aged man would think like that.
Alright, fine. We'll wait.
Achi turned his own phone off and slumped back in a huff. After 20 more minutes in the storeroom, the two were sitting in silence. Achi had run out of things to talk about.
Do you think you'll ever be friends again? You and that guy, Suzumu, I think it was. He told me I asked that question.
Oh. Do you think you'll ever be friends again? You and that one guy, Suzumu, I think it was.
Hitomi's question caught Achi off guard. He stammered, unsure of how to respond. Hitomi shook her head.
I'm so sorry. I barely know you. That was insensitive of me.
No, it's alright. I mean, sometimes I wish things could go back to the way they used to be.
Achi said. He let out a tiny sigh.
What that Kiryu guy said was the truth. I was the guy who founded SOS. Do you know what I mean by that?
Hitomi gave a slight nod.
I mean, I never wanted to be in charge of the gang or anything. But I knew that if I left, SOS would just fall apart. And I didn't want everyone else to get all caught up over who would take my place, you know? So I thought long and hard about it. Looking for a way for folks to stay friends even after I was gone.
The loud voice echoed through the pool hall that served as SOS HQ.
Panda.
What do you mean you're leaving?
Suzumu was positively red in the face.
You're a founder, Achi. You can't just up and quit.
Suzumu had been almost like a younger brother to Achi. If anyone was gonna try to stop him, Achi knew full well it would be Suzumu.
Look, I'm not gang league material. All I've been trying to do is make sure we're all been able to have fun.
That's not true.
Suzumu said.
Think about all of that stuff you taught us. Don't you remember? Every man gets to make one request in his life that cannot be denied. Those are your words, Achi.
Did I say that?
It's the heaviest thing you ever said.
Then, to Achi's consternation, Susumu got down on his hands and knees.
I'm begging you, please don't leave. Without you, SOS is nothing.
Achi could feel his conviction waver.
Begging here, from one man to another. This is my one request.
Suzumu, I'm sorry.
Achi could barely croak out the words.
I'm leaving you in charge.
Susumu pleaded.
Please don't say that.
Achi turned his back to him in silence.
Please, Achi, why won't you listen? I can't possibly beg any harder than this.
Enough of all that request nonsense.
Achi grimaced.
Look at you. Down on your hands and knees like that. Pathetic.
Achi spoke as harshly as he could, fighting to mask his true feelings.
I'm fed up with you. All of you.
With each word out of his mouth, Achi could feel his own heart breaking. But if he could make the others hate him, at least it would give SOS a reason to stay together.
Can you say that? Don't you try and pull that crap.
Susumu's tone had changed from sadness to anger.
Fine then.
He railed.
I'm never asking you for anything again. I'll do what you want. I'll take the reins of SOS.
Achi walked away, waving vaguely without looking back.
Good luck. Good luck. I mean it.
Once he'd stepped out of the pool hall, he wiped his sleeve across his face. Came away wet with tears.
Sometimes I think that maybe I could apologize to those guys and we could go back to the good old days again. But that's never gonna happen. Not unless Suzune gets better.
He stared into the distance, at nothing in particular. At least he'd sorted out how he felt about his former pals.
Is there nothing that can help your sister?
Hitomi asked.
She needs a heart transplant. And the problem with heart transplants is that timing is tricky. Even if there's a donor available, the transplant has to be performed within 4 hours, or things get dicey.
Oh wow, I didn't realize.
Someone with a heart that's a match for Suzune would need to die somewhere near her. Somewhere they could perform the surgery within that 4-hour window. The odds of that happening are so small it would almost be a miracle, which is what my sister's been waiting for.
Achi thumped the left side of his chest.
If my heart would do the trick, I would gladly let her have it. Damn it! And I got a strong heart, too.
He thumped himself on the chest again and again. He didn't mention it to Hitomi, but Suzune's blood type made finding her a heart transplant even more difficult. She had Bombay blood. It was one of the rarest blood types in the world. Apparently, there were only a few dozen people in all of Japan who had it. If Suzune were ever to receive a heart transplant, it would need to be from someone who also had Bombay blood.
Achi?
Hitomi sounded like she was on the verge of tears.
Wow. You must really feel bad for Suzune.
If you did manage to find a heart for your sister, what would you do?
What do you mean?
Say, if you happened across someone who was a donor match.
I would do anything.
Anything?
Yeah. Whatever it took, I'd risk my own life if it meant helping Suzune. I mean, at that point, I assumed God had granted me a miracle or something, you know?
Mr. Tanaka?
Hitomi's voice was barely a squeak. For a moment, all was silent.
Maybe it's just a cat.
Achi suggested.
Or not?
It's time I skinned this cat. I need to get rid of this costume, whatever it takes. I take hold of the head in both hands and I yank it upward as hard as I can. Oh? Please tell me I'm not just imagining things. The head feels a whole lot looser than it did before. If I give it a good enough push, then maybe... Ah! It comes off. I did it. I slip out of the rest of the cat costume and gleefully abandon it as I head for the knick-knack shop. What the heck?
Oh.
Mr. Tanaka?
Doorknob rattled ominously.
You really think that's Tanaka?
Achi asked.
I'm not sure. If it were him, I think he'd probably say something.
Achi grabbed Hitomi's hand.
We better hide.
The two of them slipped behind a large piece of plywood stage dressing.
What
door swung open with a loud creak. In stepped a cat.
Oh, it's just a kitty cat.
A giant kitty cat walking upright?
Achi and Hitomi stared in confusion as someone in a cat costume slipped into the room. There was something vaguely sinister about the fuzzy figure. The cat had both hands stuffed into its pockets, and it shuffled as it walked, dragging one leg.
You think that someone's with the theater troupe?
Achi whispered.
Maybe.
The two huddled in the shadows, pressed almost cheek to cheek. They watched as the cat rifled around inside one of its pockets and then pulled something out. It was a bundle of keys. No doubt the ones it had used to get inside. Achi's eyes fixed on the furry mitt that held him. It was stained, dark red. That could only be one thing. Blood. In that moment, Achi finally realized just what was going on.
That's no theater guy. It was an assassin.
He'd used the catsuit to slip past the theater people, then had somehow gotten his hands on the storeroom keys. Now he tossed the keys away, then delicately adjusted the costume's wobbly head.
Hitomi, we gotta run.
Huh?
Hitomi seemed frozen, mesmerized. The cat turned directly toward them. The fur around his mouth stained crimson. Hitomi let out a high-pitched cry of shock. The cat drew its other hand out of its pocket. Clutched in its mitt was a gun. Achi and Hitomi had nowhere to run, nowhere to hide.
It's not worth the story. Guess this cat's staying in the bag. I figure I'll head to the knick-knack shop as is. What the The sales demo is over, and against all odds, I managed to get paid. Money clutched in one paw, I head to the knick-knack shop to finally buy that necklace I can't stop thinking about. Hello? Anyone here? I call out. There's no reply. Is the shopkeeper out?
Panda.
Ah, just a moment.
Panting, the sales clerk comes scurrying into the shop behind me.
Sorry about that. Just had to pop out for a sec. Whew! You would not believe what I just saw.
He leans against a pillar, gasping audibly as he tries to catch his breath.
Hey, you hear about that necklace?
Do you still have it?
Of course.
Thank you so much. I have half the money here and the rest is in my... Oh. I suddenly remember something very important. Oh no. The sales clerk gives me a curious look.
What's the matter?
My wallet! It's still in here! I pat the costume around the tummy.
So why don't you just take the outfit off?
Well, I mean, the zipper's kind of broken. I wouldn't be having all this trouble if I could just get out of this darn costume.
Kinda? It's way more broken than that.
The sales clerk points me to a full-body mirror. He's right. The zipper in the back is hanging open. Taking this thing off will be a cinch now. Oh, thank you. I give him a bow.
I'm not sure you need to be thanking me.
He says. No, I do. If you hadn't pointed that out, I might have let myself stay stuck in here forever. So really, thank you so much. I bow again and again.
Oh!
I told y'all.
Who is that?
That's Maria, bitch. I told y'all.
Suddenly, someone hit the door. Hard. Sounded like they were trying to break the lock.
You really think that's Tanaka?
Achi asked.
I'm not sure. If it were him, I think he'd probably say something.
Achi grabbed Hitomi's hand.
You better hide.
The two of them slipped behind a large piece of plywood stage dressing. The door swung open with a loud creak. In stepped a man with a cane.
The heck?
Achi whispered.
What's he doing here?
Gun drawn, the assassin prowled slowly around the storeroom. Achi and Hitomi crouched behind the plywood prop, trying not to make a sound. The man moved out of their line of sight. Achi gazed longingly at the door. Achi risked a peek around the corner of the plywood. He still couldn't see the man with the cane. The door was maybe 5 meters away. What should they do?
YOLO. A.
They needed to just make a run for it. Achi took a firm grip on Hitomi's hand. Suddenly, they heard the sound of a cell phone vibrating from behind a tall piece of plywood leaning by the door. The assassin stepped out from behind it. If they'd made a run for it, they'd probably have bumped right into him.
That was a close one.
Achi wiped away a few beads of cold sweat.
Emilio.
I'm sure this is the place.
His voice was low and confident. Uh-oh, did he have friends? Still clutching his phone, the assassin wandered deeper into the storeroom. Achi and Hitomi took the opportunity to slip out the door. They ran through the alleyways back toward the main road. Before they reached it, however, they suddenly found their path cut off by one of the foreigners who chased them earlier, the accomplice of the man with the pipe. He stood waiting for them, holding a knife in one hand.
Achi.
I'm fairly certain that's him. out of the frying pan and into the fire.
If they turned back, Achi knew the man with the cane might catch up with them, and he had a gun. Achi slipped off his sleeveless jacket and wrapped it around his left arm. He was going to have to use his left arm to guard against the knife while punching with his right hand. He clenched his fist and braced himself. And then suddenly, he froze.
Huh?
A small, dark silhouette dropped from somewhere up above. Landing deftly, the newcomer lunged toward the man with the knife, closing the gap between them in the blink of an eye. The figure delivered a swift chop to the back of the man's neck. He dropped to the pavement like a dead man, finally giving an Achi a clear view of the shadow behind him. Achi couldn't believe his eyes. It was a small-statured young woman with Middle Eastern features. Hitomi let out a little gasp.
Oops.
Don't worry about this.
Sorry to keep you. Okay. Do I do it now?
CJ?
Sorry to keep you waiting.
A girlish voice exclaimed. A moment
Oh.
later, a furry figure came charging into the demo room. The crowd fell silent at the sight of a young woman in a cat costume. The cat girl panted visibly. Her arms were loaded with cardboard boxes.
You're late!
The event organizer snapped.
What the heck have you been doing?
Grabbing the newcomer by one paw, he vanished with her into the back room. The chubby-cheeked girl wrapped up her magic routine and hurried after them. The audience stared at the now empty stage in confusion. Several minutes passed before the organizer reappeared.
Late. Terribly sorry to have kept you waiting.
He called out.
But now, I'm proud to introduce to you the worldwide sensation that is Burning Hammer!
At his signal, the young woman and the cat appeared on stage.
Tama, I think? Oh wait, no, young woman. CJ, go for it.
Allow us to explain just how this revolutionary new diet drink works. It's magic!
The young woman exclaimed cheerily. The cat nodded, threw out her arms.
For the first time in human history, you can drink a single bottle and lose a whole kilogram. Just drink and burn the excess weight away.
And with that, the sales demo was underway, a good 25 minutes behind schedule. Five minutes into the presentation, things began to go awry. An angry clamor filled the room.
What the heck are you trying to pull?
Frank.
I can't believe you'd actually try to sell something like this!
The outrage had been triggered by something the young woman on stage had said. She inadvertently let slip that burning hammer was the sort of thing you could buy at a 100 yen shop. The would-be customers were furious to learn that they were about to be played for suckers. Most of them had immediately tried to storm out of the room. Now the organizer, the full-figured young woman, and the girl in the cat costume were at the door, doing their best to hold back the tide. Things had gotten pretty interesting, really. Minorikawa pulled out his digital camera and started firing off snapshots at the angry crowd. Unfortunately, their frenzy was so intense that he was soon caught up with the flow and pushed out of the room.
Fine. Do some interviews instead of getting pictures.
Lini. Oh wait, that's... Sorry.
Excuse me?
He asked one woman.
Would you mind if I asked you something?
Lini.
Shut your mouth.
Would you mind telling me a little about...
Jules.
talk. Don't you talk to me.
Could I get a word on?
CJ.
Unbelievable! That's unbelievable!
The women were so enraged that Minorikawa couldn't get any of them to give him the time of day. Before long, the entire crowd had surged out of the room and departed.
Oh well. I've had enough to do a write-up at least. Though it would be nice to get a quote from somebody.
He decided to try for an interview with the man who organized this fiasco. How did the guy feel, for instance? About his product scam falling through. Heading back into the event room, Minorikawa passed by the cat mascot. The cat gave him a tiny nod and walked off without a word. He couldn't see the face of the girl inside the costume. But she seemed genuinely dejected, but that burning hammer had been a bust.
Hey, I'm Minorikawa, freelance reporter. I was wondering if I could have 5 minutes of your time?
The organizer sat alone in the midst of his ruined displays.
Oh, it's you.
The man's voice had lost all of its earlier punch.
Here, my credentials.
Minorikawa handed him a business card. The man introduced himself as Yanagishita, and Minorikawa got right down to business.
So, your sales demo is over, Mr. Yanagishita. How do you feel right now?
How do I feel? Well, tomorrow's another day, I guess.
Minorikawa was impressed by the guy's candor.
I'm a little surprised to hear that.
He said.
I figured you'd be more disappointed.
Oh, I'm plenty disappointed. I took a big gamble here to repay my debts, and I lost.
Yanagishita didn't seem to be trying to hide anything.
Debts?
Minorikawa asked.
There was a girl I was in love with.
Yanagishita said.
I wound up spending everything on her.
He stared wistfully into the distance.
Oh. Interesting.
Minorikawa said.
You wouldn't be the first man to go to such lengths for a woman.
Yeah,
Yanagishita said.
I suppose not.
A rueful smile crossed his lips. This guy didn't strike Minorikawa as some dyed-in-the-wool scam artist.
But I decided that it was time to stop feeling sorry for myself.
Yanagishita went on.
There are plenty of people in the world who have it way worse off. You know?
You got that right.
Minorikawa nodded in agreement.
So I just figure, well, as long as I'm still alive, maybe another opportunity will come my way.
A more earnest smile broke through Yanagishita's forlorn expression. Minorikawa wished Toyama could have been there to hear this fellow.
I have a friend who's in an incredible amount of debt myself.
Minorikawa said.
Runs a publishing company. There was a big mix-up with the scratch cards in his magazine, and...
Scratch cards?
It's not important.
Minorikawa said hurriedly. Letting more people know about the whole scratch card fiasco certainly wouldn't do Toyama any favors.
Anyhow, debt is a terrible thing.
Minorikawa nodded sagely.
Oh, by the way, this is unrelated, but... Are you familiar with a group called SOS? Apparently there's some legendary street gang here in Shibuya.
SOS?
Yanagishita shook his head.
No, never heard of them.
So I'm not going to get any leads on that case here.
Minorikawa wondered if there was anything else worth asking this guy.
I think wrap this up.
No, nothing really came to mind. It was about time to wrap this up.
Thank you for your time, Mr. Yanagishita. You'll excuse me though, but I have to get to another interview.
Oh no, of course. Allow me to walk you out.
Yanagishita rose to his feet as Minorikawa got up to leave.
Oh, that won't be necessary.
It's no trouble. I'm heading out now myself. Gotta run before those guys show up.
What guys do you mean?
Oh, nobody. Just a personal thing is all.
They parted ways outside the building, and Minorikawa headed off to the cafe to put his article together.
Oh, perfect timing.
Minorikawa stopped short as a familiar voice called out to him. It was the man he'd spoken to earlier that afternoon about the surveillance cameras.
Hey, come here for a sec.
The man waved him over.
What is it? I'm really busy right now.
I got a scoop for you. Saw it with my own eyes.
Minorikawa raised an eyebrow.
Give me the details.
Okay, so a little while ago, I saw some foreign guy in handcuffs arguing with someone who looked like a detective.
A foreigner? In handcuffs? Had there been some kind of international sting or something? Whatever the case, it wasn't such a rare thing to see.
Where was this?
It's over there. Behind the police station.
Minorikawa furrowed his brow. A suspect arguing with a cop outside a police station wasn't all that weird. Still, he had a feeling he was missing something here.
Well?
Well, the big thing is what happened afterward.
The man said.
Afterward?
The man leaned in conspiratorially.
The detective undid the guy's handcuffs and let him run off.
Whoa. What?
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. It had to have been like a bribe or something.
A bribe?
That seemed unlikely.
I swear, it's what it had to be. There is some wheel greasing going on.
You're not making this up, are you?
Minorikawa asked. He regarded the man coldly, but the guy still seemed quite legitimately worked up.
It's all true. Please, you have to report this to the police right away.
Why do I have to?
Minorikawa asked.
If you have a tip for the police, go give it yourself.
He didn't quite manage to stop himself from saying that out loud.
No, I can't. I'm no good when it comes to police. Besides, they're not going to believe someone like me.
Okay, so maybe he had a point there.
But you... You're some world-class reporter, right? The cops will totally take your word over that of a random nobody.
Minorikawa didn't have time to debate the point. It was just easier to make the call. He phoned up the police to leave the tip. The man bowed repeatedly, looking pretty grateful.
Oh, thank you so much. I haven't been able to get any business done with those scary thugs around.
What thugs? What line of business are you in, anyway?
What? What?
The man suddenly went pale.
Whoops. I gotta get going.
He skittered off in alarm. Minorikawa was left to wonder what this guy's line of work actually was. But he had more important things to worry about at the moment. He hurried off in the other direction. Before long, he arrived back at Café Lautrec. The clock on the wall showed that it was close to 2 o'clock. He had to somehow fill 6 more pages before the loan company came to Heaven Publishing to collect. Booted up his laptop.
What's with this coffee shop?
Said a low, stern voice.
We got no good magazines here.
Minorikawa looked up.
Oh.
An older man was complaining to one of the waitresses. It was the same guy who'd been yelling at his daughter earlier. Evidently, he'd been here at the cafe this whole time.
Frank.
Haven't you got any magazines for me to read? The man's face was a mask of irritation. Minorikawa glanced at the magazines in the rack. They were mostly geared toward a younger reader. The waitress sifted through the stacks and pulled something from the back.
Jules, go ahead.
Perhaps this would be to your liking, sir?
She said. She held out an issue of 4-star general gossip. Don't be ridiculous, the man spat dismissively. It says vulgar, low-grade filth. I wouldn't even use the paper it's printed on for compost. That was a harsh way to put it, but Minorikawa couldn't fault him for speaking the truth. The man continued grumbling as he went back to his seat. Minorikawa headed over to the magazine rack himself and picked up the gossip. He opened the front cover and found the scratch card still inserted within. If these things were still out there, it was a bad news. Toyama might end up even further in debt. Minorikawa yanked the scratch card out and tore it to bits.
Jules.
Sir, what are you doing?
The waitress rushed to stop him, only for the pieces to rain down on her like confetti.
The magazine itself is still perfectly readable,
Minorikawa said.
There's no problem here.
He strode back to his seat and gazed at his laptop screen. It still hadn't finished booting up. In the meantime, he decided to give Chiaki a call. She picked up right away.
Hello?
Minorikawa asked.
Hi there. Good to hear from you.
Chiaki replied.
How's progress?
I did it!
Chiaki said, her voice overcome with emotion.
I managed to get people to hear me out.
Of course you did. You get your pointers from me.
Yes! I couldn't have done it without you, Mr. Mino.
Her mood had done a complete 180. Minorikawa allowed himself a little sigh of relief.
Okay then. Head back to the editing department and we'll put together an article for me.
You got it, sir!
Chiaki chirped in reply.
I'll email you as soon as I'm done with my things on my end.
Minorikawa told her.
Just use the DTP to slot your piece into the right spot in the layout.
Sure thing.
Minorikawa hung up, then rolled up his sleeves. He sure was towing a pretty narrow line today. The Burning Hammer event had kept him a little longer than anticipated, and now he needed to clean up his copy as soon as possible in order to stick to his schedule. When he turned back towards his laptop, however, he froze with shock.
What?
His laptop monitor was still a black, empty screen. There's no way it would take this long to finish booting up. Oh, it couldn't be.
No, don't let it be true.
Had his computer decided to pick now, of all times, to give up the ghost? Minorikawa felt the blood drain from his face.
Director, you have a moment.
Tanaka poked his head into the kitchen.
I got something urgent to discuss with you.
Yes, of course. Osawa took the bug tracker from his pocket and handed it back to Kajiwara. I won't be needing this anymore. As soon as they had left the kitchen, Tanaka leaned in close and whispered to him.
I got an email from Hitomi.
He showed his cell phone to Osawa. A blue minivan?
Allow me to handle this, sir. I'll figure something out.
Osawa knew he trusted Tanaka for a reason. Thank you, he said with a bow.
Oh, you wouldn't happen to know any place she might have gone, do you, sir?
What?
It's just that Achi's told me that she's been moving around.
I'm sorry. I don't really have any idea, Osawa replied. He was ashamed to say it. There wasn't a single place he knew of where his daughter might be inclined to go.
No, I see.
Tanaka, picking up on his discomfort, was visibly embarrassed himself. He hastened to change the subject.
By the way, how did your talk with Mr. Makino go?
I confirmed that he was behind the human testing. But I don't know who sent me those emails. Tanaka paused for a moment in thought, looking like he might have a hunch.
Alright then,
He said.
we're gonna talk in more detail later.
With that, the assistant director headed for the front door. Mr. Osawa! Kajiwara spoke from behind the kitchen door. Peeping in on me again, huh? Osawa grumbled. Thankfully, it didn't appear that the detective had overheard his conversation with Tanaka. And good grief, that thing is noisy. If it's broken, why don't you just throw it out? The sounds from the bug tracker grew fainter and fainter. Something wasn't right. Osawa now realized. Mr. Osawa, Kajiwara said. This is my bug tracker. So? Osawa huffed. What I mean is, sir, this one isn't broken. What? A chill ran up Osawa's spine. He swallowed audibly. I've pinpointed the source of the signal, Kajiwara said. It's coming from Mr. Tanaka. No, Osawa thought. I must have misheard that. Hold on. Say that again? I've located the source of the signal. It's coming from Mr. Tanaka, the detective repeated. This time, Osawa heard him crystal clear. I'm certain of it. Mr. Tanaka has a listening device on him. Osawa felt the blood draining from his face. If someone had been listening in on the conversation just now, then they'd heard about the email from Hitomi. If the kidnappers were the ones listening, that meant Maria's life was now in danger. I'll go after him, sir! Kajiwara broke into a sprint. Osawa followed close behind.
Wait, is this different?
Yep.
Not quite yet.
Okay.
We're going to cross.
What?
Dragging Hitomi by the hand, Achi darted out into the street. Moving purely by instinct, he wove his way through the gaps between the speeding cars. When they were halfway across, a car slammed on its brakes to keep from hitting them, causing several cars behind it to crash into one another. The multi-vehicle pileup plunged the roadway into total chaos. The car moved at a glacial pace toward the crime syndicate's hangout. Stanley pounded his fists on the steering wheel in frustration. They had no sooner set out than the traffic slowed to a near standstill. Despite the occasional lurch, it never crept above a crawl. Kano stewed in the passenger seat. The case was rapidly getting out of hand. Now he had to worry about the safety of both Maria and her sister, Hitomi. Never mind the fact that Detective Tateno had also gone missing. There were too many unknowns, too many uncertainties. His unease was growing unbearable.
Is that Kuze?
Yeah, that's Kuze.
Oh, so, the tender hasn't radioed in, and, we can't reach it from our end either.
Kuze's words kept echoing inside Kano's head. What could have caused Tateno to drop out of contact? Someone had gone after Hitomi while Kano and the others were busy trailing the attaché case. Could Tateno have been... No, it couldn't be. Kano was sure Tateno would have done whatever was necessary to keep Hitomi safe. Stanley broke the long silence.
What's on your mind? Still thinking about that call from Kuze?
Kano didn't answer.
Look, if you're worrying about the other detective, the guy can't even protect one girl.
Stanley continued.
Not exactly a ring endorsement.
Don't you talk about Detective Tatano that way.
Ooh.
I'm concerned about Hitomi Asawa, but the missing Atache case needs to come first.
Stanley's expression remained stone cold. Kano flashed him a sidelong glare, then went back to staring out the window. A moment later, a flurry of motion in a nearby alley caught his eye. With a start, he recognized Sasayama. His fellow detective was caught up in an altercation with a man in dark clothes. Kano sprang into action, his body moving almost before his mind registered the situation.
Sasayama!
Flinging the door open, he leapt out of the car.
Hey, wait!
Stanley called after him. But Kano was already sprinting toward the fight.
Nolan, take over as Sasayama.
The other man knocked Sasayama onto a pile of garbage. As Sasayama struggled to get back to his feet, his opponent looked down at him with a triumphant sneer. Kano finally got a good look at the man, and his eyes flashed with recognition. It was the perp who'd first taken the attaché case back at the Scramble. Tariq Al-Karawan.
You!
Kano growled. He sped like a bullet to tackle Al-Karawan around the legs. But Al-Karawan nimbly stepped aside. Kano's arms closed on nothing but air. At the same moment, Al-Karawan deftly wrapped an arm around Kano's neck. Kano felt a vice-like pressure on his carotid artery. His consciousness quickly began to slip away.
You don't, you bastard! Wait. Yeah, I know you don't, you bastard!
He snarled. Lowering his center of gravity, he got hold of one of Al-Karawan's legs and used his shoulder as a fulcrum against it. Despite the arm still crushing his neck, Kano managed to lift his opponent high into the air. He continued the movement to heave Al-Karawan up and over himself, slamming him upside down into the heap of trash. Stanley strolled up to the aftermath of the struggle.
Well, you got the brawn part down.
He said.
Need some work on the brains.
Al-Karawan was sprawled out atop the mound of refuse. He'd been knocked out cold. Sasayama coughed and sputtered. Kano went to help him to his feet, but Stanley stepped in between them.
What are you doing?
Stanley asked.
Helping Sasayama. What does it look like?
We need to apprehend Al-Karawan first.
He's not even conscious. Sasayama can come first.
He pushed Stanley aside and crouched down alongside his partner.
Are you alright?
He asked.
Nolan.
Yeah.
Sasayama groaned.
You're bailing me out, though. Can't let the missus know about that.
Mom's the word.
Kano said. He slipped an arm underneath Sasayama and helped him to his feet.
I managed to find the guy who had the attaché case.
Sasayama said.
But when I tried to arrest him, the fella came out of nowhere and attacked me.
He flashed Al-Karawan a nasty look.
So here we go again, disobeying direct orders.
Stanley huffed.
What's the deal with Japanese police anyway?
He shook his head in exasperation. Sasayama gave Kano a puzzled look, jerking his thumb at the American.
Who's this guy?
It's a long story.
Kano said. He filled Sasayama in on the situation.
Enough chit-chat. Hurry up and cuff this guy.
Stanley said. Kano knelt down by Al-Karawan's unconscious body, flipped him over, and proceeded to cuff his hands behind his back. Kano paused. Al-Karawan's sleeve had slid back from his wrist.
What's this?
The unconscious man had a tattoo of a two-headed scorpion on his left forearm. Stanley strode over.
We found something?
He asked.
Yes. I think this guy might be the ringleader.
Seeing the image had reminded Kano of something he'd heard back at headquarters, that the head of the foreign syndicate had a scorpion tattoo. He relayed this information to Stanley.
I see.
Stanley called up Kuze on his cell.
You'll be happy to know the guy with that attaché case is still at large.
He said.
Apprehending the ringleader at this point shouldn't be an issue. One of your so very capable subordinates gave us a big step forward in the case here.
Wait a second.
Sasayama murmured.
That was sarcasm, wasn't it?
Stanley hung up and called over to him.
Think you can escort this guy back to the precinct?
Yeah, sure. See how very capable I am.
Kano felt his phone vibrate. The display showed an incoming call from Rumi.
Hello?
He answered warily, keeping his voice down. Stanley had him a little on edge.
It's me.
Oh.
It was Shizuo.
Damn it.
Kano thought. He did not have time for this right now. But if he just hung up, he might be in even deeper hot water. Kano. Kano decided he'd better listen to what the old man had to say.
Hello, sir. I'm afraid I'm not really at liberty to take a personal call right now. It is from my father-in-law.
He did his best to sound apologetic. I'm not your father-in-law.
Yes, of course. Sorry, sir.
He bowed his head reflexively, feeling like an idiot. You really don't give a damn about keeping me waiting like this, do you?
Sir, I swear to you, I feel terrible. Please, I just...
Flustered, he took a deep breath and recomposed himself.
I promise you, sir. I promise I'll be there. You can just wait a little while.
Don't make promises you can't keep! Shizuo's barking rebuke made Kano break out into sweat. You think I'm gonna let you off the hook just because you're working a case? This is exactly why I don't want my daughter with some detective.
Great, another angry tirade. But, didn't you used to be a detective, sir?
Kano muttered. You watch yourself, you little brat. Not enough that you keep calling me your father-in-law, now you have to bring that up? Evidently, Kano had touched a raw nerve. It seemed like anything he said only made matters worse. Well, you're not off the hook, Shizuo continued. I am never letting my daughter marry the likes of you. His fury hitting its crescendo, Shizuo promptly hung up. Why on earth did Shizuo hold such intense malice toward police detectives when he'd been one himself? Kano had become a detective for Rumi's sake in the first place, and now it was the biggest thing holding him back.
Hey, come on, let's go. Oh.
Stanley's voice snapped Kano out of his daze. Grimly, he followed the American back to the car.